Yes Have Some Podcast is brought to you by Carnivorous Creations, your one-stop shop for all of your Proton Pack building needs. If you're in the market for a Proton Pack, head to carnivorouscreations.com. That's carnivorous with a K. You're going to find aluminum motherboards, resin parts, fiberglass shells, and a whole lot more. Find them on Facebook at Carnivorous Creations or head straight to carnivorouscreations.com. Remember, carnivorous with a K, and get started on an authentic, screen-accurate Proton Pack.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
I don't want to grow up. Do you want some?
Jurassic Park. Now playing at PSW. Ecto goggles with Ecto Bomber, neutron blaster, and water zapper, each sold separately.
From the corner penthouse of Spook Central all the way to Star Killer Base, this is Yes Have Some Podcast.
Do I? Yes, have some. Yes, have some.
You know, they told me you people were conceited douchebags.
The only place in the multiverse where you can love the book, hate the movie, but still buy all the toys.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
What?
Please remember to hold on to your butts and get ready to get stressed. With your hosts, Craig Goldberg, Abigail Gardner, and Jacob Walsh.
Cool. Hello, Real Quick.
Hello.
We're here with Real Crick. Real Crick? A real crick in the neck.
All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Yes Have Some Podcast. Special episode. We're continuing our Dragon Con preview week because that's all we're thinking about. Abby, I know that's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah, pre-con week. It's a big week.
It's a big week.
It's a lot of prep.
There's actually fireworks going on outside right now. I'm not 100% sure why.
I'm assuming they're for Dragon Con.
Yes.
Because it's almost Dragon Con.
Yeah, it's Atlanta, so you never know. It could be pre-Labor Day celebrations. You just never know.
Why not?
Tonight we are joined by our special guests, Gary Mitchel, Joe Crowe. These are the co-directors of the American Sci-Fi Classics Track at Dragon Con, my personal favorite fan track. And we welcome you two to the show for the first time on Yes Have Some Podcast.
Thank you. Wow. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I only practiced that 35 times this morning.
In the mirror.
And I do request as much positive reinforcement as possible.
You're doing good.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
I'm blessing the rains down in Africa. I'm doing good.
Good.
All right.
I mean, I feel like in terms of how a human being can do, is if there's a Toto song involved,
Yeah.
Then I think you're on the upswing at least.
Absolutely.
So, exactly.
Congratulations
You're
for
totally doing okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was good. Do you want to?
That's what we do.
We're gonna put that on a
We're
t-shirt.
gonna just put that away now.
Okay. So you guys, I kind of want to backtrack and start at the beginning. I mean, for those of you who are not familiar with the way Dragon Con works, it's a completely different thing than basically any other standard convention. I mean, it's as big as, San Diego Comic-Con. It's as recognized as, it's bigger than all the Wizard World cons and all that, but this is very much a fan-driven, fan-centric convention. And even though Dragon Con has grown and they're expecting like 80, 90,000 people this year, it's still fan-driven. So how did you guys get involved, and where did that start for you, basically?
I started going in the 90s just as a fan, and then I was lucky enough to, I don't know, luck. I started writing for a web company based here in Alabama called Hecklers Online, and we launched a sci-fi website. And through them, to promote the sci-fi website, I got a press pass to come to Dragon Con, which I'd already been coming anyway, just as a regular old dude who sat in audiences. And the first year I came with my partner, Shane Ivey, who I launched that old website with, we were at I believe it was a Star Trek panel, and that's where we met Gary Mitchel.
Yes.
Okay.
I had actually fallen in with the website that they were writing for, and they always did, like, there was a message boards because, it was 99 on the internet.
Yeah.
And I saw an ad for their website on Real Player, if anybody's old enough.
Oh,
to
yeah.
remember Real
Yeah.
Player.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely.
And so I checked out zealot.com and was a regular on the boards and reading their articles. And as he said, there was a panel for Enterprise was about to come out. And I asked a question based on an article that the Zealot guys had done going, so this was 99, Phantom Menace had come out. Everybody was in a bad mood about that. Everybody was in a bad mood about Rick Berman, and Shane had written an article, a very funny little spoof article of George Lucas and Rick Berman co-author article to fans, up yours.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I posited the question to the panel of, do you think the problem is the writers or the producers, and cited that article? And Peter David gave a lovely answer that you would notice that most of those are pretty much the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And after the panel, I'm walking off, and these two guys come up to me. They go, "Hey, that website you mentioned." I went, "Yeah, it's great. It's this." They went, "That's us."
Oh, yeah.
That's the.
So we went out to dinner.
So
Nice.
you went. That's the best. You make the connection, and everybody immediately goes, "Okay, we want food." Like, every good thing that's ever happened in my life has basically happened over a meal.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're involved with the Georgia Ghostbusters, and we've all kind of met that way. And it's like immediately, let's get pizza.
Yeah, like the first time I met Chase Ambrose, is like, "Hey, I want to meet you. I want to talk to you. I want to know everything about you, but there has to be food." Yeah. So that's cool. That's kind of like serendipitous that worked out, and then. So at that time, if we're talking like 1999, gosh, how many? There's got to be, I don't know, is there 20 tracks now at DragonCon? More, a little bit less? I mean, how much has it grown since that? Like at that time, how did it work back then? Was it kind of the basic same structure, or was it a little bit different than it is now?
I think there were only maybe 2 hotels that they were doing it in back then.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the Marriott and the Hyatt. And I remember you could get a hotel at either one of them the Friday of con.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got friends messaging me right now trying to find rooms and freaking out about getting one for next year already. So that sounds like unreal.
Yeah. You always hear those stories of Dragon Cons past about, it's kind of like back in my day, when there was only 10,000 people and it wasn't, people tend to like, people get grumpy about change, but I personally always embrace change. But so after you guys met, how did the track that you guys run now, the American Sci-Fi Classics, how did that kind of spin into existence? Was that the following year, or did it come down the line a little bit?
We ended up being on panels together and separately on several other tracks that already existed, like Kelly Harkins is American SF Fantasy Media Track, which is like the current TV shows.
Yes.
And I did a few panels on the Star Trek track. And then we ended up, the American Sci-Fi Classics track was taken over by a dude named Ron Nastrom. And he, super cool dude, who said, whatever you guys, after we'd been on panels for him a couple of times, he said, whatever you guys want to do, let's do it. And so we just did panels for him and for Kelly for several years. And then Ron moved on, and we got the call to be the classic track people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said that, this year, he told us this was 2011. He's like, this is my last year. I've got to hang it up. And Joe and I basically got together privately at first and went, both of us had pretty much said the same thing at the same time. I want to do this, but I don't think I can be the head guy myself.
Yeah.
And so we went and found Kellen and said, well, what do you think we should do? And she said, okay, well, first, you're crazy. Second, I think you can do it. Third, you're crazy.
Yeah, right.
So talk about that. So talk about you're crazy. So on the surface, if you're just a DragonCon attendee, you're going to panels, you're doing the DragonCon stuff. would guess most people understand there's a lot of work that goes into the planning. But like Gary, I mentioned to you yesterday, the week that the app is launching, now that there's an app now, I'm sure it's existed for 5 years, but I kind of miss the old the paper. Yeah, the paper book.
Still have a collection.
I would print out the schedule like 3 weeks in advance and then go over it with a highlighter.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Literally last night, I have a notebook. I was handwriting all the panels that I want to attend in the notebook, even though I have the app on my phone. I was like, nope, I need it tactile.
You gotta go. So, but what does planning look like for you guys as far as when do you start thinking about panels and kind of putting the pieces together? It's got to be way in advance, right?
Well, after Labor Day, we spend 2 months recovering, and we don't even think about
Me
You
too.
don't talk to anyone.
And I'm just hanging out, and I have to recover for 2 months.
And then usually right around February, Joe and I start going, all right, what do we want to do this year?
And a couple of things usually pop up. Either like sometimes during the convention, we get a brainstorm like, well, we got to do this next year, and then so that's a whole year in advance, which is crazy. In fact, already we started planning a UHF anniversary panel for next year.
Yeah,
very cool.
Very
cool.
And
can
so
we get Weird Al at Dragon Con? Like,
oh, man. I would love that.
Yes.
I would love that. He's done some. He does a lot of meet and greets at his when he tours and stuff, and I think he's done a couple, maybe like Spooky Empire and a couple other conventions.
Yeah, I've seen the 501st up with him for some performances.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like, why not?
I feel like Dragon Con and Weird Al are kind of a perfect fit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah.
So
all we've decided is for sure everybody has to bring spatulas.
Sounds
I
good
love
to me.
that. I absolutely love that.
So that usually happens, with ideas that just pop into our heads like that. And then what Gary said, we sort of let it marinate for a few months, and then we start looking at like anniversary years for things, which is kind of like it gives us an outline, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And one thing that's kind of interesting is that as time moves on and we all get older, which is always an interesting thing anyways, but in terms of this kind of stuff, it's probably a little bit weird when you're thinking of sci-fi classics and you're going, Jurassic Park, that just came out, or or
right now it's the 20th
like next year it's going to be like Avatar, American Sci-Fi Classics, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like so it's interesting as time moves on, and you see that in nostalgia just in general.
New editions, yeah.
Like people talk about their vintage Power Rangers toys, and I'm like, vintage?
Yeah.
Well, that's for children.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Vintage Pokemon.
For me, it's like about 10 years ago and listening and driving the car and hearing an oldie from The Clash. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
That and it's
moment.
usually that 20 to 25 year mark. So I guess when you take a step back and go, oh my God, it's almost 2020. Like I just never thought we'd get that far.
Right.
It just seems so futuristic.
We may not.
Yeah, we might not.
We'll see.
The way things are going, we might not even get to Dragon Con this year. So if you guys want to go ahead and spoil all the surprises for the panels,
Yeah.
We could do that.
So cool. So you guys start planning in about February, March, and you start putting it all together. I think people are always kind of interested in the way the individual tracks don't really have much say in the guests that end up kind of being booked for Dragon Con. And I'm sure you guys are kind of inundated throughout the year of like, you should bring this person, and you should get this guy or get this girl. Is that ever frustrating if you ever want to focus on a certain guest, or do you just kind of say we're gonna design our weekend based on what we want to do, and if there's particular celebrities or actors or whatever that plug in, then great, but it's not number one priority.
more the latter.
Yeah.
we have a few people that we always ask for, but like you said, we don't have a lot of control beyond going, hey, could we get please?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting, and sometimes like the guest list always varies. I mean, I know for this year they finally have Lost guests.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. We went to some of the early Lost panels like in my first couple of years, and this is going to be my 10th year. So I remember those panels. We were all like, God, it would be so sweet to get some of the actual cast here, and like a lot of them are going to be here this year.
A decade later,
psyched.
we get a couple.
Yeah, finally.
Which, now that Lost might be a sci-fi classic now. It's crazy.
Well, the rule is it has to have been off the air for 10 years.
Okay.
And not claimed by another track.
That second part, not claimed by another track, because technically speaking, if it's not on the air right now, the clock starts ticking for us. And I always tell the other tracks that. I can't wait for this show to get canceled because then it comes to us.
Nice. But, you got like a countdown calendar? I like that.
And they hate that, by the way.
I imagine all the track directors getting together and doing like a fantasy football draft with shows. Like, all right, I'll take X-Files, and then it gets rebooted and it like restarts the clock because it's back on the air, and you're like, no.
Yeah. That you're really not far off, because they subdivide. Of course, the Star Wars and the Star Trek track get those shows, and then like this is a fairly recent change to a track. Military SF Media gets Farscape and Babylon 5, which we used to have.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that way they can do lots of Babylon 5 panels when we would barely be able to squeeze one or two in.
Right.
Got it. Like a more specific take on it. Got it.
Yeah. And that lets you guys focus on, what, in your opinion, so...
Yeah, what's your core, like, group of classics? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, because, like Star Wars and Star Trek have their own tracks, and like you were just mentioning. So what... If people have never come to Dragon Con and they want to check out American Sci-Fi Classics, what can they look forward to?
We're contractually obligated to say Manimal.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Manimal.
Yeah. We, I really should have stopped saying it after we actually got an actress from Manimal a couple of years ago, but I'm not ever going to stop.
Okay.
Because like almost everything, it'll get rebooted eventually.
Of course.
And I've said from day one, it's pretty much the greatest TV show in the world.
That's passion.
I'm gonna go watch it now.
Yeah.
It won't take long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can do it tonight.
It won't take long.
Yeah, I'm reading it. It ran from September...
This was like Animorphs before there were Animorphs.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Manimal ran from September 30th to December 17th, 1983. So...
it's
like 8 episodes of solid gold.
Yes.
I've got to do this. I have to do it. A lot of guys that we know, Gary and I, and I'm sure a lot of people are doing podcasts and blogs where they track individual episodes of TV shows. Like we know a guy who's going through the entire run of Doctor Who.
Okay,
wow.
That's a lot.
And then that's a lot. And
he's been doing it for like 4 or 5 years. He just finally finished the classic run.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! I didn't know how far. And so. Really, I could do that with Manimal and bang it out in an afternoon.
Yeah, there you go.
Heck yeah!
It's a limited podcast series. I like that.
Yeah,
you should do it.
But I'm incredibly apparently I got to get on the stick, man. I got to do it. But the fact remains that started as an in joke, pretty much between me and Gary. Because somebody, I made a goofy, obscure TV reference to Manimal, and then I did it again the same day in a different panel, and somebody in the audience raised their hand and said, that's the second time you've mentioned Manimal in 2 different panels, and I said to that person, and I'm going to keep doing it
Yeah.
forever.
Bring it back.
And now I've done it. So
it's become a thing.
It's in the zeitgeist, yeah.
I like that.
Absolutely.
I feel like Manimal reboot T-shirts for all the panelists.
Oh, I'm
would be
getting
good.
one. With that hawk?
Yeah, I feel like inside, like especially in like fan communities, like the inside obscure jokes and references.
B-side minutia is the best. Yeah.
That's the stuff that gets you up in the morning. So I salute
People
that.
get up for sure.
So
But
beyond
the
Manimal,
other main stuff is because we cover pretty much everything from the dawn of cinema until now. It's hard for us to really have a core. The closest we would have to core outside of Manimal would be like we always do a Ghostbusters panel every year because we work with the PKE Surge group.
Yes.
Hey Chase.
Hey Chase.
What's up, Chase?
We were supposed to have Chase on, but he can't do it.
We need him on for the after hours
Yeah,
show.
he can't. Chase
be on
can't
for
talk
regular.
till 11 o'clock at night, so we're gonna have to do late night with Chase Ambrose coming up here soon.
Oh, good gosh.
Those are.
I've been to live late night with Chase Ambrose, and that's
it's fun.
I told him we do bonus episodes for our Patreon, and I told Chase we might have to I don't know if we can release those into the wild. We just have to have exclusive content.
Yeah.
Who knows? The first time he was on the show, I spent 2 hours editing. So
no joke. One Dragon Con maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I'm trudging back to my hotel room at like 3 a.m. and all of a sudden, Captain Chaos from Cannonball Run runs up to me and goes, "Joe, today was great. Everything was." And then after like 10 minutes, I realized, oh, that's Chase.
Right?
Those are the kinds of things like
that's my favorite.
People have never been to Dragon Con. Like you try to explain those things, and like you just have to experience it because it really is like nothing else in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about Dragon Con is it's a convention with, God, since I've been going 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. And yet, even with, taking over like 18 square blocks and 600 hotels, I will run into the same 9 people all weekend.
Yeah.
Every year?
I will run into Chase.
And then you do the laundry.
I will run into Chase. I will run into my friend Karen. Karen, I will run into. It's like, hey, how you doing? Joe had this one guy he kept running into every year. Did you finally stop running into the lantern jaw guy?
Yeah.
It was this weird dude who had a gigantic cranium. I don't mean that to be. He had a huge protruding jaw, and he always was just wandering in the background of like photographs of mine. And, and he would walk into the frame when I was taking pictures, and I haven't seen him in a few years, and I'm kind of worried.
But he's your constant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is.
You're gonna see him at the Lost panel. It's the plan.
Yeah, and he's gonna be there. He's gonna be there. Sitting there like, yeah, what? What?
It's me.
What? Hey, cranium dude's
head.
here. I every year, like after high school, like many of us, I basically disassociated with every single person I knew. At least I tried to.
Call.
Yeah, just for like for like peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I run into like 5 or 6 people from high school every year at Dragon Con. Now these are people; they're good people.
Those are the good people. Yeah.
But it's funny because I never see them in any other walk of life except for the one dude who manages a Kroger that I go to sometimes, and his picture is like, they put the giant picture of the manager of Kroger.
Yeah.
When you walk in, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but what does he wear at a Dragon Con?
Just his Kroger uniform.
Okay.
No, he doesn't. But yeah, he does the best Kroger manager cosplay you've ever seen. No, but so yeah, I completely agree. There's 60,000 people, and you just kind of keep running into the same ones. So that's always fun. How do you guys think? What are some of the big? Since you guys are longtime con goers, what are some of the biggest changes for the positive and possibly things that you kind of wish could go back to the way they were, if you have any?
Wow. I like a lot of the improvements. I guess I'm not. Maybe we're not the right people to ask because we've seen it for all these years. So we sort of, like stuff that's difficult for new people, we know how to kind of weave our way through. You know, we could get to from place to place while the parade's happening, for example. We just know what to do. And we can figure out the arcane manipulation of the DragonCon app when...
Yes.
Yes.
I literally was just trying to work it just before we started. So I like having... I like knowing where everything is, and I like having it be within quick walking distance. I got to say, I wish the merchandise area was closer.
Okay.
That would be that's a negative for me, but it's just because I like buying stuff.
God, me too.
We do too. Our podcast is literally like dedicated to us talking about the stuff we buy, so how much we like it or are dissatisfied with it, so we understand. It's true.
Yeah, I think Abby actually this week was working on a couple articles for our website, and it was basically your top 10 tips for DragonCon for people maybe who've never been.
Yeah.
Because really, it's almost like you kind of do. It is extremely overwhelming your first couple times. You got to really figure out the lay of the land.
It's unlike other cons too, in that it's 24 hours, and you just don't know how to prepare for it if you've never been there. So
I had a guy message me this week. It's his first time, and he goes, "Hey, I have a question. Will it be okay to wear my proton pack on the main show floor?" And I responded, I was like, "What main show floor? Yeah. I don't know. This is not, we're not in a convention center. This is kind of like you guys said, whatever it was." 13, 14 square blocks of wonderful chaos.
Yes. Yeah, that's the only thing I really do miss is when it wasn't quite as crowded, so it was easier to get through that throng of people. But now that I'm running the track, I don't leave the track room so much during the day, so I don't run into it as badly. Nice. But sometimes I swear I feel like I'm trying to go upstream to spawn.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments of actually from DragonCon about 4 or 5 years ago was I was trying to get through just to go to the bathroom, right where the habit trails come in at the Marriott.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The blood drive was there at the time. Ooh. But you got 2 hallways, all these people crushing in, trying to get into the Marriott. And I'm like, I just got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, I finally just screamed, I have a full bladder and I'm not afraid to use it.
That's nice.
That'll always clear a crowd. I like that.
Yeah.
At least it worked. I think it worked. Unless
it worked.
You're like, nobody moved, so I
so I just peed.
Yeah, so I just peed on everybody. I think the last couple of years I've noticed that I feel like the security has been a little bit tighter, which is actually, even though it's extremely crowded, it's limited the, I feel like 3 or 4 years ago it hit a point where it was like almost unmanageable, and it's gotten back to being like, it's crowded, but
it's a contained, concentrated group of only con goers, because you get a big melting pot of like other people in Atlanta for that weekend for sports events, etc. So it's good to keep it.
Who don't know con etiquette?
Right. Yeah, because it was like about 5 or 6 years ago when a bunch of the sports people found out about DragonCon and the DragonCon room rate. Which was, and so there were, and which is part of the reason it's always hard to get a hotel room now, is because there are like 2 or 3 different bowl games going on in the area usually.
Right.
And that year there were a ton of drunk sports guys hanging out, looking at the freaks in the Marriott and the other. And there were some bad things that happened. I don't want to get into those because I don't like to remember the bad things. Mm-hmm. But that's where they started the whole cracking down of, if you don't have a room key and you don't have a badge, you don't get in the hotel. And that I love.
Yeah. I love that. And I also love the random, the people who did book their hotel just coming to the games and they have no idea about
You
DragonCon.
can always tell.
And the first time you're in the elevator with them and they're just looking at you like, what is happening?
Like people on a romantic getaway or whatever, and you're just like, oh, I'm sorry. But also you should just have fun and join it.
We came to Atlanta for a quiet celebration for our
shopping.
Anniversary. Like, this is going to be bad.
Hey, DragonCon 2000. Dragon Con is going on. It was over 4th of July weekend that year. I forget why. And
that's interesting.
Not only is Dragon Con going on, the Salvation Army is having a meeting as well.
Okay.
So the Hyatt is half Dragon Con, half Salvation Army.
All right.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of little old gray-haired ladies in full Salvation Army uniforms talking to the Klingons going, how do you do that? How'd you get that thing on your head? I mean, they were the sweetest little old ladies.
Yeah.
And they had a parade.
There's a Santa Claus ringing a bell, and he doesn't know which group to hang out with.
Right.
Nice Santa costume.
But that's actually what started the Dragon Con parade, is because a whole bunch of the Dragon Con people went, well, we can do that. We can walk down the street.
Oh, that's cool.
That is really cool. Hey, so I'm very happy that the parade is still here and happening for the foreseeable future, but there's been that rumor for the last couple years that the parade was going to maybe go away, and I feel like that would be such a bummer because it's such an integral part of the weekend. That's not really a question. I just wanted to say that.
Don't take the parade away.
Yeah. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff there that we really can't get into, mainly because it's not our department.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a real risk that the parade was going to have to fold, and thankfully things were worked out.
That's great.
Good.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how little we are let in on the interior workings of the Grand Poobahs. Mm-hmm. But the parade is such an integral part of the Dragon Con experience, and yet we always do a panel opposite the parade for the people who can't get to it or don't want to go.
Right.
So,
well, I think that's the coolest part about Dragon Con, and it's one of the things that Abby wrote about today. I don't want to steal your thunder, but basically,
no, steal it.
Here I go to steal thunder. Is it's really hard to plan your entire weekend and kind of stick to that schedule. So the advice we always give newcomers is, whatever you're doing in that
wherever
moment,
you are is where the party is.
Yeah, wherever you are, that's where you are, and that's where you should be. Because if you're constantly worried about not being able to get to the things you want to get to, you're going to just be full of anxiety the entire weekend.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be something going on for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
There are, and Gary, I think you would agree with this. There are panels on our own track that we miss. Mm-hmm. that going into it, we're like, well, I gotta come see that, and we end up missing the things that we put in the schedule.
Yeah, because you never know when the walkways are going to be blocked, or when there's just like a huge photo op going on that you can't get past. The elevator's full. There's so many things, so it's just like accept the moment and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a wonderful thing. Also, is like, if you see there are 2 or 3 things going on at the same time, go ahead and plug them all into the app, because you may get to one of them and it may be full and you can't get in, so you need to go to something else.
Book.
Or you might go, wow, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And sometimes that's great. It's like, this isn't what I expected, and I love it. And sometimes this is not what I expected.
We're going to sneak out the back row.
Yeah. How cool would it be if somehow the app had like a built-in GPS feature that if you had multiple events going on at once, that it would tell you which one that you could get to the easiest based on your current location?
It's like Waze?
Yeah, basically Waze. But it's
Conways.
Whoa.
Conways. We're spitballing here, and instead of like police ahead in 3 miles, it's like, I don't know.
Roving kaiju monsters.
4 inflatable T-Rexes taking up the hallway. Avoid. So that's
there
great.
Is a parade of pickle ricks. Turn around. There's a parade of pickle ricks. Turn around.
Yeah.
Guys, there's like 15 Deadpools coming up. We better turn around.
Yeah. I think to touch on what you guys were just saying, though, my favorite moments every year are the unexpected panels and things that you just end up at completely against your will, and then you end up either meeting cool people or just, learning about something you would have never taken up an interest in before. And I think that's what's cool about the individual tracks. And I do recommend everybody download the app and start planning now, because you got to plan if you want to have a good time.
Yeah, even if you don't make every event, just definitely put yourself down for a few things and try.
So as far as your guys' track, what are you the most excited about this year?
Gary, I don't know. I should have volleyballed it over to you.
I'm really excited for our panel talking about what New York was like in the 70s and how it still influences how we view New York, even though it's not that crime-ridden as it used to be. I mean, the war. I just rewatched The Warriors. About 2 days ago for that. That's going to be a fun panel. The guys at Retro Blasting are always a hoot. They're doing a panel about movies of 1968 and a panel Rambo, the Panel of Freedom.
Nice.
That's cool.
So that's going to be good. I'm looking forward to we're doing a panel on called "We Have Always Been Here" LGBTQ characters that in classic sci-fi, and the voice of Night Vale is with us on that panel. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
That's very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, I've actually noticed there's a whole diversity track this year. For people not like con culture is very inclusive and basically completely ahead of the curve. From I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Specifically talking about like we were just a few minutes ago with like having the football crowd in and how different things were back then. I feel like we've made a lot of progress and it's different. The culture is like it's very cool right now.
Yeah.
It's very,
I was gonna say we're ahead of the rest of the world. I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but we're ahead of the rest of the country.
It's like a little utopian society of Dragon Con that happens over the weekend.
Which is good because there's so much stuff going on now with sci-fi and gaming culture with like the Twitter, knuckleheads and kind of those loud voices that really are truly not representative of what's really going on out there. So it's really cool to see that you guys are having a panel like that and that diversity and inclusion of all races and sexual preferences and lifestyles is represented because it's super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's my PSA.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the big anniversary this year that we're doing a bunch of panels about.
Yeah.
The
in the blue and red tights.
Yeah, that guy. Well, thank you. I completely blanked. Who are we talking about?
Blue and red tights. Yes, American Gladiators. 30 years.
And dang, we got to do a panel about that, Gary. Write that down. But
I think we could get Nitro.
Only if we get to rebuild the tennis ball cannon.
Ooh. This year is the 80th anniversary of Superman.
Ooh, I've heard of him.
So the comics track is getting the comic book stuff of his. We get all the other stuff. So we are doing panels on the Superman. Oddly, it turns out that we're not the first ones to note anniversaries of Superman. It turns out that they put the first Superman movie on his 40th anniversary. And Lois and Clark, the TV show, debuted on his 25th anniversary.
Ooh, okay.
So, or rather 70. Wait, I can't do math.
Yeah.
Hey, neither can we.
Yes. No, this is a no calculator.
25. Anyway, it's been 25 years since Lois and Clark. So we're doing anniversary panels for the Superman movie for Lois and Clark. And also on Sunday, we always do a goofy trivia game show where it's really not about knowing the answers, but it's called Challenge of the Super Nerds. And this year, we're devoting the entire thing to just Superman stuff. So it's Challenge of the Superman Nerds.
I like that.
Nice.
I like that. And then there's a couple Supermen who are also guests at Dragon Con this year, I saw.
Yes.
Brandon Routh.
Yes.
Which is kind of I don't want to say forgotten, but I would say an underrated Superman on film.
Agreed.
And
we
Tom,
and Tom Welling is also here. Oddly enough, we could not schedule panels with them, but they are here. They are going to be here.
Okay.
No, but that's fine. I mean, I think it's like it's the spirit of the celebration of the anniversary, and I think people Superman is an enduring character who will be with us for the rest of our lives. So
one of the originals. There you go.
I like it. I like that. And then there's Jurassic Park has its 25th anniversary this year.
Yep.
Which is really cool. And yeah, I got it. And then you guys mentioned Ghostbusters. I think it's 1:00 Friday. We're doing something a little bit different this year. It's Ghostbusters. What can they bust it? Could they bust it?
Yes. Yes,
Garrett,
that was my idea, and I'm quite proud of it.
I love it.
Me too. We started doing it last night on our podcast.
Yeah, we started already kind of going for it last night on the podcast, and we had a lot of fun. But yeah, go ahead and let us know what that's going to be about, because I think we talk a lot of Ghostbusters around here.
There's a toy company called Mezco Toys, and they do what they call the 112 Collective, which is really, really, really well put together 112 scale figures of all kinds of different licenses. They've done Superman, they've done The Flash, they're doing a John Wick. But anyway, they're doing Ghostbusters. Yeah, they're doing Ghostbusters, and they put up a lot of different fan pictures and stuff on their webpage of people posing the toys and doing whatever. And they had a poster of a picture someone put together of the 4 Ghostbusters going up against Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's a brilliant crossover. And then it was like, and I was thinking, well, could they bust him? Is he a demon? Is he a ghost? I mean, technically he's a ghost, maybe. And then it just hit me. Can they bust it? And it's like, oh my God, we could just do a whole thing of, could the Ghostbusters bust Freddy Krueger? Could they bust Godzilla?
We brought up Godzilla.
Literally, those are two that we also brought up Chucky.
Yeah, with Chucky and Spock. I don't know how he got his.
Spock was in there too. Yes.
So yeah, we
and
had,
Yoda.
And Yoda. There's no way they could bust Yoda.
Yoda's fine.
No.
Yoda's
Obviously.
going to be on their back.
We were going back and forth, and then we ended up with this whole scenario with all of them being cohabitants inside of the ghost
If they were all busted, what the life would be like inside of the trap. And it's like The Office, basically. That's what we were coming up with.
Yes, I think.
Amazing.
Thank you.
We had
Chucky's a little asshole.
Yeah, Chucky and Tiffany were the Jim and Pam of this world. So we're looking forward to that panel.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll be there in the audience for sure.
And it mirrors the geekiest conversations that you can have. Like when you're little, could Superman beat the Hulk? And now we get into the science of it, by golly. And that's what this kind of thing is about. And that's just fun stuff.
Yes.
And we're also doing anniversary panels for Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Nice.
And They Live.
Very cool.
And,
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski.
Cool.
I forgot about the Big Lebowski.
That's very cool.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, Roger Rabbit's one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, it's if you ever want to listen to a movie score that's completely underrated, go listen to that one. It's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty phenomenal.
Smile, darn ya, smile.
It's so good. I've always every time I go through a tunnel and I'm not in Toontown, by the end of it, I'm basically ruined for the day. I don't go through tunnels that often.
Yes.
It's not something that happens on a
Your day's not getting ruined that often.
I don't seek tunnels out. But
Got it.
Anyways. Well, listen, guys. We very much appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us about Dragon Con.
Yeah, doing what you do.
Doing what you do. I cannot understate.
Overstate.
Let me not understate. Let me just get rid of that phrasing altogether.
Just state it.
What I'm trying to state is you guys work extremely hard. Dragon Con is a volunteer-based event. Everybody does this because they're passionate about the things they're passionate about. And you guys put in all this hard work to give people hours and hours and hours of entertainment at Dragon Con. So thank you from us. Thank you from Yes I Have Some Podcast for continuing to do that, because it's very exciting.
Yeah, I don't think we would exist as a podcast if we hadn't all met you, myself, and then Jake through Dragon Con. So
yes, Dragon Con has brought people together. I'm sure it's torn some people apart too.
It's probably ruined some people too.
I mean, you always see those couples.
The couple meltdowns by the elevator.
Having a meltdown by the elevator. Yeah, but that's okay too.
Yeah, they'll get through it.
Yeah, they weren't meant to. We're not going to go down that road. But before we let you guys go, is there anything else that you feel would be important information for our listeners to know? People coming out to DragonCon, how can they find you guys in the app? Where is your main location for American Sci-Fi Classics once you're actually at DragonCon?
The Atlanta Marriott Marquis, room 103 to 105. That's just the names on the doors. It's one big room. We used to have a Tetris-shaped room, and now it is rectangular. So we're very excited about that.
Very cool.
And we are on a lot of what we like to do is on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We do stuff throughout the whole year, so you're not just getting a huge thing right before the con and then we go dead for 9 months. We are at facebook.com/groups/American Sci-Fi Classics. So we do goofy stuff all year long and promote the other cons we go to and post and work on ideas for the next year. So join us there. Me and Gary are on that thing all the time.
Mm-hmm. And you can also friend us on the Twitter as well. I am Gary_Mitchel, Mitchell with 1 L. And Joe is?
Yojo Crowe. YOJOECROWE. Not Jim Crow. I am Joe, not a racist segregation law. I am a human being.
I was going to ask you if you
That
were.
was your first question.
Thank God for the clarification. Well, listen, guys, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
we're
thanks.
very excited about DragonCon. We're very excited for all the things you guys got going on.
I've got costumes to go finish though, so
Yeah, we've got it's what they call crunch time. Yeah. I think that's what they
I
call
have
it.
so much to do still.
Somebody calls it that. Listen, we will see you guys there next week at DragonCon. Thank you guys, Joe Crowe, Gary Mitchell, American Sci-Fi Classics. Yes, have some podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.